I'm just kidding because, All right. We're a little early, but you know what? We're 2 minutes early. We gotta make sure. Is everybody else online? There's no TV. There we go. There you go, Diane. All right. Is David still sick? So Catherine Gentile's on, huh? Hey, Catherine. Down there from Cousins Island, or is it Cousins Island? Yeah, that's right. Hello. All right, let's say a little prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, we ask you to be with us. We ask you to open our hearts and our minds to your teaching, most especially teachings that might be hard for us to hear, teachings that might not, that we still need to grow and appreciate. May the good things we do in here help us see you one day in heaven through Christ our Lord. Amen. Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Just as a reminder, I have to do this every time because there's always somebody new that if you want to get my delayed texts, my emails, you just sign up right here. And that will helpfully give you a chance. This is the page. These are the catechisms that we use. This is the original one. This is the first revised, second revised, and these three are all the same right here. All right, these are our days. As you can see, we'll go 27. I was looking at it as if we have 5, this would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could do one each week. One each of the commandments each week. How's that sound? Right? That'll get us right on course. So this is what we've done now. The first, second, and third commandment were all about loving God and how we love God, right? The keeping holy the Sabbath, not taking the Lord's name in vain, all those things that the world has long forgotten, but we hopefully still keep. We're in the fourth commandment of honoring your father and your mother, and that we just need number 5, which on Article 4, which is the authority in civil society. Because honoring your parents is about authority, and I have major authority issues, but I had great parents, but I do have a lot of authority issues. Just to let you know. Oh, Jen is online. Look at that. All right. So, Jess, I'm going to go through that one quickly because I think it's going to be pretty clear. Oh, wait a second. What happened? Am I on the wrong one? Oh, you know what? I never deleted the old stuff. That's not where I want to honor your mother and father. There we go. We didn't do this one? Pilgrimage is a duty and honor of the family. Yeah. Duties of parents. We went duties of parents. God has the final say. There we go. All right. What happens is we have the duties of civil authority. And we're starting at 2234. The authority in the civil society, that every society has an authority group, a system, right? And we say that we are to honor for all the good received by authority in society. The idea that societies form for us for the common good, for our protection most especially, and for our growth and development, societies are very good. We are social creatures. We organize ourselves, and in numbers, we get to protect who we are, right, and who we want to be. Now, those who exercise authority always do so as service, in a service mode. You would never know it because, and I'm going to be as clear, I have no idea how this all works, but all I know is that you have a senator who's a senator his whole life. His salary was around $200,000 to $300,000 a year. And he's got houses, 2 houses on the ocean. And I don't know why you get all that money, but family money, I guess. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that it's amazing how wealthy political people get. And they're not paid by the government by that amount, but they get all kinds of things. And so I'm pretty much, I have issue with that, because I'm not sure how they all get it. It's none of my business maybe, but I do know that it's not based on what the work they do, because they don't get that money, right? So, but the idea is that they organize it, and they exercise authority the idea that they facility to exercise in freedom and responsibility by all. So the idea of justice, they want to build a just society. And political authorities are obliged to respect the fundamental rights of the human person. And this is where the debate will be, what is it? We have a very clear understanding of our fundamental rights as Catholics, and what it means to be made by God in the dignity of human with rights. We believe that most of America believes that. That's been in there, but I'm not sure all the political authorities do that in terms of respecting the human rights that we all have, right? So the subject to it with the authority, and the idea is that we believe that authority is also in our relationship with our authority with God. And so the idea is that we obey authority because we obey God, who's the ultimate authority. But anytime that ultimate authority is not incongruent with what God has given as authority, then we always say we have the idea to say that God has the final say, and He is ultimately the one we listen to. It does say on 2240 that as a citizen, you have to pay taxes. You should have the right to vote, and you have the right to defend your country. So the idea of that the prosperous nations have an obligation to extend to and care and welcome those foreigners like this who become citizens, for their livelihood. So in this section, you're going to see that the right for societies to welcome foreigners, for immigrants, and the duty they have to adopt the standards of a country that they come in, and they're obliged to respect and gratitude. That's all in 2241. And then 2242 reminds you that citizens are not obliged to follow authorities when they are contrary to the demands of the moral order. You serve God first, before the state. All right? I think I'm going to just kind of let the rest of that be, because it's really more, I think most of us agree with that. The difference between church and state. We say that it's part of the church's mission. This will be very tough for people, but if you look at 2246, we believe that part of the church's mission is to pass moral judgment, even in matters relating to politics. So they say it's none of your business, separation of church and state, but we say if there's a moral issue involved, we have a right to speak on moral issues as a church. Whenever, especially the fundamental rights of man or the salvation of our souls require us to speak about this. And that's why some people will often say, hey, this is a separation of church and state. And I'm like, you're right, but this is a moral issue. And we'll all agree that if they can agree that this is a moral issue, then we will continue to speak out on the moral issues involved. And the church right there in your catechism says, you have a right to do that. So those people who try to silence us and be like, no, by our very right, we know. By our very existence. So, all right?
When you say church, do you mean the individuals, or do you mean the church as a whole?
She says, do you mean individuals, or do you mean a church as a whole? And I say the answer is both, because the church has a right to make a statement about immigration. So it's none of your business. I'm like, yes, it is, because it's a moral issue, and you're dealing with people and relationships. So the church has a right to speak about that. But then also too, you as a baptized Catholic have a right to speak about that. And you tell them, I stand up for this, because this is my faith. This is what I believe. So, yeah, you can do abortion, you can do euthanasia, you can do poverty, you can do the drug abuse. And of course, Catholics usually stay quiet. I mean, that's one of our problems. We don't speak up about anything. We don't, we picked up the narrative that faith or religion is a private thing, and that's part of our culture. When that's not part of Christianity. It's never been, take your own faith and go, do your own thing. It was always about we have to build a civil society. We have to build a society based on love with a moral code. And for many, many years, for a century anyway, a couple of them, we thought, the United States was a Christian society. It was, if you took a look at the laws, they were often based on the Ten Commandments, right? We follow them. The majority of the laws were Christian. And now, if you've been to if you were at the Basilica, I preached on this, that many are saying that we are in a post-Christian time where we no longer live in a Christian society because the laws are not going to be based on Christian morals, not going to be based on Christ. And we have to figure out how to live in a world where we're no longer the prominent voice, right? And in terms of what we believe and what we think is a good society, a just society. So, but that's for another time, right? So we can always talk about that. Matter of fact, I plan to a lot more in the future. But I believe it's absolutely true myself. I believe we are experiencing a change in an era where, 40, 50 years ago, all your children's friends were all thinking the same thing. They may not even been Christian. They may not have been Catholic. But they thought that these things were wrong and these things were right. And you knew that for some of us older ones, that your children's parents believed the same thing you did. And that's no longer the case, right? So, whether it's going to be anything from same-sex marriage, or it's going to be multiple marriages, not being married, having children out of wedlock, creating different kinds of families, whether it's going to be the approach toward money and civil society, all that now is very different than it would have been, in the 1940s, 50s, and myself even in the 70s. Things have changed now. You meet people where you're like, the culture did not form them in a Christian mentality that would have happened years ago, because pretty much everybody was. So, and that's part of the diversity that we live in now. That's the culture we live in now, which wasn't quite the case. So let's go to the fifth commandment. All right, because this is get out of the political realm. Right? Some of this stuff is going to be so obvious you all know it. And then there's going to be some stuff where it's going to be very clear. This is what we believe, okay? First, you shall not kill. Human life is sacred to us. Number 2258. Human life is sacred. Only God gives life and takes life. I can't imagine anybody here would disagree with that, right? Only God gives life and takes life. No one can, under any circumstances, claim for himself the right to directly destroy an innocent human being. Just an innocent human being. We're not even saying not born, preborn, whatever. A human being, that's the most basic teaching under this one. God himself takes life. He gives life. None of us can destroy innocent human beings. All right? So, what happens is we know that there is killing. We know. Right? And so in 2259, the church begins to explain, well, why are people taking other people's lives? And Cain and Abel, in the Old Testament, Cain killed his brother Abel for many reasons, but the presence of anger and envy in man, which is the cause of original sin. Sorry, banging the microphone. The cause of original sin within us now causes things like anger and revenge and envy. And so it says, and this is 2259, man has become an enemy of man. Now we become enemies with each other. And it shows God's displeasure by the wickedness of taking life. With this wickedness of taking life, that now we can take each other's life. So God's gift of human life and man's murderous violence. Right? So blood was always considered a sacred sign for the Jewish people, and even for us now, and for all time. The blood, especially now, of course, the life of Christ in blood has this special symbol in our life. Right? So, and that's 2261. The deliberate murdering of an innocent person is gravely contrary to the dignity of the human being. Under no circumstances, the law forbids it, universally valid for everyone of all times and all places. That, in other words, that is never going to change. Notice that it's the deliberate murder of an innocent person. Now everything's going, what about? What about? What about? That's what's going to come up. The church recognizes that. Right? So, but what we're going to, that's going to be the most, that's going to be the deliberately taking of a life of someone who is innocent. So you intend it, number one. And the person is innocent. So 2262 reminds you that Jesus then takes this to the next level. Right? And he says that Jesus said that being angry or hating or having vengeance on others, that we instead are to turn the cheek and love the enemy. So his response to the fact that God made us all, dignity, we now turn our enemies, men against men, our enemy, human beings against human beings. And then Jesus responds with now this is the new situation. You have to love your enemies. So that's clear. I wouldn't imagine anybody would argue with that teaching, right? I hope. Anybody kind of challenge it? Good. Now, legitimate defense. Look at this. I found this picture. The legitimate defense. And this is what's clear. I want you to take a look at it because it's worded very clearly. 2263, although I think I summarized it from my notes. 2263. Legitimate defense is not an exception to you shall not kill the innocent to make an intentional killing. The act of self-defense can have a double effect. The preservation of one's life and the killing of an aggressor. One is intended, the other one is not. So when you have an intentional, we're saying the intentional or the deliberate killing of someone, of an innocent person, when you are trying to defend yourself from someone, right, there's a principle of double effect because the good that you are trying to do is defend yourself. The principle of the double effect in that, which is principle of double effect, meaning there's two things that are going to happen here. The only way for me to defend myself is that I then have to kill someone else. But my intention is never to kill someone. My intention is to defend myself. So therefore, as long as I'm defending myself, then I do never intend to kill him, but that becomes one of the effects of my defending myself in this world that no longer has pure goodness anymore, because it's a mixture of good and bad. So the church recognizes that if I was in a fight and I'm defending myself, but my intention is to kill you, then that is sinful. My intention is never to kill anybody. My intention is just to defend myself. But what happens sometimes is that we say, I've defended myself. We use that as an excuse because what I really want to do is kill someone, right? And so we're in a big fight and I want to preserve myself. Well, then if I don't need to kill the person, I would not in order to defend myself. But if that's the only thing I have left, then I'm doing that to preserve my life. Because 2264 reminds you that one has a right to your life. You have a right to live. God has given you that life, and nobody can take it away from you. So someone who's defending his life is not guilty of murder, even if he's forced to deal the lethal blow. So the church recognizes that we live in this very difficult world. So he can, but he cannot use more than necessary violence. This is where it goes bad for us sometimes. Because if you steal my shirt, I don't have the right to kill you, right? Because you didn't harm my body. My life is not in danger. So I don't have the right to take your life. However, we sort of seem sometimes in those who have different values than we have, if you do anything to me, I have a right to kill you. It's like, no, not if your life isn't in danger do you have the right to kill someone. Only if what you are doing in order to save your life is the result of the final blow that kills somebody. So, you only have a right to defend one's life but you have a grave duty to in the responsible life of another, right? And this includes the right to use arms, to care for a civil community. So you have a right also to defend other people as well. So, not only do I have a right to defend my life, and I have a right to defend someone else's life, the state has a right to defend our lives. So you know where we're going with this, right? All right? It has a duty to protect its citizens. So legitimate public authority has the right and the duty to inflict punishment, put people in jail, right? Proportionate to the gravity of the offense. So that's why communist world, you speak against the communists and you spend 80 years in prison. Obviously, that is not. So we consider that a sin, right? Or someone who does it, it's like all of a sudden now, when someone litters somewhere and then they spend, they get caned and they spend 10 years in prison, because that's really not about punishment. It's about putting fear in people's lives, right? So punishment. So number 2266 for Catholics, the state has a duty to protect its citizens, and legitimate authority has the right and duty to inflict punishment proportionally to the gravity of the offense. Some people argue, what is the gravity of the offense, right? Punishment has the primary aim of readdressing the disorder. That's all we're trying to do, is we're trying to address what happened here. We're not here to punish someone for the rest of their life, for what they did. So now that you know that's coming, you know what the next question is going to be. Oops. Legitimate defense. I got to be over there. Number 2267, the death penalty. The Catholics' teaching on death penalty. So I have this very important. I want you to. I have it read. I have it italicized because I need you to read it. Make sure, because 2267, and it's interesting, is I believe that those who have the TAM book, you're going to have something a little different, because this is one of the things that got changed in the new edition. But I want to make sure that we so for those who have it, 2267, and I didn't put it up on the screen, unfortunately. 2267, recourse to the death penalty on the part of legitimate authority following a fair trial was long considered an appropriate response to the gravity of certain crimes and an acceptable, albeit extreme, means of safeguarding the common good. What the church is recognizing is that in the past, not now, in the past, it was considered, recourse to this was part of a legitimate authority, a response by authority. It was long considered an appropriate response, that you hung someone who killed a bunch of people, right? For the good of society, you did that so that they wouldn't kill any more people. That would be the idea. Then the next paragraph. Today, however, there is an increasing awareness that the dignity of the person is not lost even after the commission of very serious crimes. In addition, a new understanding has emerged on the significance of penal sanctions imposed by the state. Lastly, more effective systems of detention have been developed which ensure the due protection of the citizens, but at the same time do not definitively deprive the guilty of the possibility of redemption. Consequently, the church teaches, so it's very clear now, in the light of the gospel, that the death penalty is inadmissible because it is an attack on the inviolability and dignity of the person. And she works with determination for its abolition worldwide. So it can't be any clearer to me, right, that the church is clearly in its catechism saying the death penalty is not an acceptable option, right, for the dignity of the human being. We do not believe that as part of church teaching, for the reasons that now, because right now, because we can detain people, so they're not a threat to society anymore, whether we have better laws, we would do that. But, because we can do that, number one. And because we can allow for, like rehabilitation, because we believe that everybody's redeemable, right? And that there is the idea that we have a newer understanding of the significance of penal sanctions, how we understand that. It says the church teaches that the death penalty is not something we hold as Catholic. Individual Catholics might hold it, but the mind of the church does not. Any thoughts? What about Auschwitz? Right, and what about them? Should we have killed those who were responsible who did Auschwitz? According to our teaching, the answer is no. Because this is the difference. This is what's hard. It's hard because we're going to use the big extremes. And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be easy. But in light of Christ's teaching, right, those who do heinous crimes like this, heinous crimes, the idea of taking someone else's life and reducing ourselves to being as barbaric as taking life would be one. Number two, there's no idea of ability of rehabilitation, redemption, saving their soul, and because they died before that. And number three, it really is about revenge. They get back. They get what they devout, and it's hard in the light of Christ's teaching to promote revenge, because revenge is not a part of the faith. And right. So when we finally got them, the idea would be that they would be in prison the rest of their life. Maybe they might attend, but to kill them, I'm not expecting everybody to believe. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with this. But at least that it's that this is solidly pretty clear. And we have a lot of Catholics who believe in the death penalty. A lot of them. So I know this is just like we have a lot of pro-choice people in the church, right? But it is clear, at least for us, that if you hold that no one can take life, only God takes life, and only God gives life. If we lived in a different time, the church recognizes that, where we could not secure, nor could they be punished, right? Which means they're being punished by living the rest of their life in prison. To think about for what they did the rest of their life, that would be the better option than doing what they did, put it that way, which is revenge and a tit for tat. And I don't expect, it's hard because you can hear someone say, that's because you never had your daughter killed or raped. They're going to say that. And I know that because it's very painful. But I have to still hold that I can't take your life. But I want you in jail the rest of your life. I want you, we have maximum security now. There's no way they're going to get out until they get pardoned by Biden. But that's beside the point. Or Trump. I'll throw Trump out there too. But that the idea is that they spend the rest of their life reflecting on this. Sometimes, some people would say, killing them is actually better because then they don't have to spend the rest of their life suffering. But they want to suffer for the next 30 years in prison. And maybe they might convert. Maybe they might see the error of their ways. But this is our culture. This is what we have. This is what Catholicism is teaching. Just for instance, I'm repeating only so that they online can hear you. I said I'm only repeating you because, here's a microphone. So I don't have to repeat you because they want to know what's going on.
Okay, so for instance, if somebody broke into my home, right?
They broke into mine.
Oh, that's right. But you know, I was threatened, and I do have a gun, I would shoot them. I wouldn't be a great shot, let's put it that way. But I would try my best to aim, you know, and I happen to know somebody in law
But
enforcement.
would you shoot him in the leg, or would you shoot him right in
I
the
will-
right in the heart, right in the face?
So I will tell you, and you know I know somebody in law enforcement, and he said the people, especially like when they're crazy on drugs, they're going to keep coming to you. You could shoot them 5 times. You'd have to get them like in the heart or the head, because they're going to keep going.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you
wouldn't
know,
take the risk if it was.
you can hold that. I don't know if he's coming at you, you get the right to save your life. But if he's in your house
Yeah.
and he's standing here and he says, "All right, I'll leave."
Oh, well, that's different.
Well, I mean, but see, you've changed the situation. If you're saying you have the right to defend yourself, we've already said that.
Yeah.
You have the right to defend yourself if somebody's coming at you.
Yeah.
But if somebody is standing there and says, "You caught me. I'm going. Call the cops. I'm going." You know.
As long as he didn't keep coming at me, I
Right.
would be
Well,
okay.
no. Once he's coming at you, that's the earlier paragraphs. You have the right to defend yourself.
Yeah.
You have the right to your life.
Yeah.
But if your life is not in jeopardy, right, then you really shouldn't kill him.
Right.
If he's not threatening your life. Now, there are other things to do. Take your camera out and take a picture of him and send it to the police, you know. But anyway, so you all do, only because you don't know yet, but I'll just tell you only because it's fun to is that, you know, the 2 houses that got broken into this past week, one of them was the rectory. So, and I met the man. I'm the one who chased the man out of the rectory at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
No, that's it. Trust me, it was not pretty. No, it was not pretty for me either. But I didn't have a gun, nor would I. No. But because anyway, I was going to the Right to Life march. Yeah, hang on, Arlette. All right, so I was going to the Right to Life march. It was 4 a.m. I needed to get the shirt out of the laundry because I had not. It's just hanging in the laundry. So I went to open up the door, and there he was in the house. And I shut the door immediately from my bedroom. And I'm like, who was that anyway? I don't know who that was. Was that Joseph? So then I opened up the door and I walked over to the side and he came out and I said, "What are you doing in here?" I was like, and I got like, "Get out of here!" And "How'd you get in here anyway?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm living it through because it was so cold." He's like, I went through the window. And I'm like, "What? How did you get in? Why did you get in?" He goes, "I needed something. I was looking for something warm. I'm sorry. And I thought I was going into the church and then I got lost. And now I don't know how to get out of here." I'm like, "The door's right there. It's right there on you. I'm calling the cops." No, call the cops. He said, "Well, get out of here." And then he left out. And I got him on camera and then called the police. And then the police found out that there's another house 3 buildings down that sold the car and used the credit cards. And that poor lady, I don't know who it is, but anyway. So all that's happened, but it's interesting. I have to tell you that I don't know. I don't think I would ever shot him, but what was so stupid of me was to go back out there, right? I mean, I was dumb. I mean, you don't think in these situations, because I was filled with like anxiety. It took me like hours to pull myself down, but I was like, what was I even thinking by going and talking to him or yelling at him to get out of my house? He could have beat me up. He was a drug dealer.
Or have a gun.
Yeah, I'm like, get out of here! All right.
But here's the thing with all of this.
Uh-oh, Arlette.
One,
Yeah?
you have more of the ability than a lot of other people do of being more rational, level-headed. Yes, you were shocked. I got a German going because he broke in, okay? But you know what? In all reality, you could have seen if he had a gun on him or a knife or something like that.
Yeah. It was so stupid. I should have, and he left because he could have come after me, right? I mean, I think, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is it's awful having somebody at 4 a.m. in your house that, that broke in. All right. What did you say, Linda?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't ask if he had a gun. I didn't ask him for anything. I told him, get out of my house now. Yeah, and what's interesting is I was like, kind of like, even I was wondering, oh, by the way, the house is full of 6 other men, right?
Yeah.
No one came to my defense. And you know what they said to me? And you know what I said to them, did you hear me screaming? He's like, yeah, we did. But then it stopped. I'm like, well, it could have stopped because I was dead. That's why. Why didn't you come out and help me? Good.
That was too good of a story to interrupt. I did want to kind of circle back to the question about somebody coming into the house and you're needing to, or you're defending yourself with a gun. So the way I'm seeing that kind of that doctrine of double effect is if somebody's coming at me and I have the gun and, terrible scenario, I have to shoot them, shoot for the center of body mass, they hit the floor. I know I've done something. I've taken an extreme action to stop them. That is something they're not going to get through that. If the paramedics come, save them, they live, I'll be like, thank God. I stopped them, they lived, that's a good thing. It's not me saying, you're in my house, so you have to die.
Right.
But at the same time, if you're at that extreme level, it's like you were taking that without regard for their safety.
Right.
So that's that double effect. It's
right.
No desire to kill them, it's a desire to stop them by any means necessary, even if hopefully not, but hopefully if hopefully it's not, but if it's fatal, that'll.
But you could imagine someone saying, all right, I'm out of here. And he turns around, he goes out the door, and somebody shoots him in the back.
Oh, yeah.
While he's going out the door.
And I could see somebody having that.
That's not right.
I could see somebody having the idea of like, if you're in my house, then you deserve to die.
Right.
And I think that would not be, that's what they're saying is that's not covered.
Exactly. Yeah. You remember that one when the kid went to the door because his car broke down and he knocked on the door, and then the guy opened up and he shot him because he's like, what are you doing on my property? It's my property, private property, but he was going there to get help, And so there are many different things, but I think one of the things we're talking about is capital punishment is where we were, is that we do not take a life. If we can preserve the life, we preserve it as much as we possibly can. All right. Now we also do protect it, and we do not at all believe in in that there's no redemption for someone. And that we would. I remember one time, I think we were talking about that, and talking about everybody going to heaven. Does everybody go to heaven, right? And the question was like Hitler in heaven? That's a big question I was asked. How about all those people in the Nazi camps that were running them and did those awful, terrible things to the human being? Are they in heaven? Of course, we have no idea, right? Number one. But then the other thing, I said, well, what? Does everybody get saved then? Because everybody thinks they all get saved. And I remember a priest saying, don't you want everyone to be saved? And then I thought, do I? I think I'm being convicted, because I'd be like, wouldn't you want everybody to be converted, even if it's at the last moment? And if I don't, it must mean what I want is revenge more than I want God's mercy. As long as the revenge isn't on me, right? I want God's mercy on me, but I don't want God's mercy on them. They belong in hell. I want God's forgiveness, and I want to go to heaven. That was at least a little reflection time for that, because most of us would say, well, yeah, maybe I do want everybody in heaven. At least I don't know if everybody's going to get there, and there is no promise of that, because that's not for me to decide. But I do hope God's mercy is going to be at least enough for me to get in, and some other people I love, right? So anyway, we don't know, and that's why we're not to judge. But what's important in terms of capital punishment, and we have a culture right now. We're in our country, they're very pro capital punishment. So as a means of justice, it's often found as a means of justice. You know, my grandmother used to say, you kill my cat, I kill your dog. That's it, tit for tat, you know. And we all know that we're talking about things that would be very painful for someone for this is a reality. But in the end, we have to believe that you cannot take life. We don't take life, right? Unless we are having a principle of double effect, and I need to preserve a life. So I preserve the life of my parishioner, by taking someone else's life, but I don't want to do it. You know, I don't get any joy out of that. I don't even, I certainly don't get any kicks out of it.
I think we're making the assumption that our system is equal for both blacks and whites and Muslims and
Poor and rich. And
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's not the case.
No, because it's very clear in our society, if you get a good lawyer and you pay a lot of money, that you get away with a lot of things. Yeah. You certainly get away with a laptop anyway. You get away with a lot of things. A lot of tax evasion you get away with when you have a lot of money. And then you don't have a lot of money, you go to prison very quickly.
So how does the church, what does the church do to get that sort of equality for all?
What does the church do to get equality for all? It doesn't do anything. It can't do anything other than preach that everybody should be equal under the law. Right, they should be. But we know the reality. I mean, we know, because we have stories, history of that reality. That as soon as, if depends on who you are, who you know, and all of that. So, and of course, I have to tell you, if I'm speeding and I get stopped, I put my collar in. Right? Who wouldn't? You would want one of these if you were stopped. I'm kidding. Well, you can be. You know what I mean. But I think we all use advantages. We look at how we can make this happen. Do I know somebody? Do I know a police officer? I remember my mother one time, because my brother was a police officer. My mother got stopped, and I was with her because I'm in front of Funtown, right? And so he comes over, and her first words out of her mouth was, "Does it matter that my son's a cop?" She got off.
She did. She did.
Yeah, he's got a question. Let's wait for the microphone because I get comments. Yeah.
Just another short story. When I was working at the prison, I used to go down through Winthrop, and I had a chit on my keys, and I also had an ID for the prison, okay? And so I got stopped one time, and I kind of looked around, I threw my badge right about there. So it didn't look like I was trying to wave it in his face, and he let me go.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, sometimes we can be self-righteous, but in the end, it plays out in all these times. Now, it plays out 20,000 times higher the more influence, the more money you have in our culture. That's just the way, I don't know, that's the way it is, right? So intentional homicide is 2268. Forbids the direct and intentional killing, which is a grave sin. 2268 was right after capital punishment. Okay, the murder and those who cooperate voluntarily commit the sin. So this is why I have this. Even though he doesn't have a gun, he's got a phone, he commits the sin. When you are accomplice, you carry the responsibility. So anyone who says, "Oh, no, I didn't do it. I am not the one who pulled the trigger, but you were there," the church says you carry as much guilt because you were cooperated voluntarily in the sin. So it lists them 2268. Infanticide, fratricide, killing your brother, right? Parricide, killing your parents. The murder of spouses are especially grave crimes by the reason of the natural bond in which they break. Right? So killing your wife, your brother. Yeah. He's like, you wish? Yeah. All right. Concern for eugenics or public health cannot justify any murder, even if commanded by public authority. We have no idea to experiment with eugenics and killing things just for a public health reason. Okay, it includes indirectly putting someone to danger without grave reason, right? And refusing assistance when a person is in danger. And somebody's in danger, you have the responsibility to go help that person. And to just watch a person drown or watch a person die. Now, of course, if you can't swim, then you're saving your own life because you're killing them both. But to not run and get someone, to not help in some way, whatever it is you can do to protect life. The church says you have the responsibility to do that. To not do that is a sin. To not, to not help someone who is suffering. Right? And unintentional killing is not imputable, which means unintentional be imputable, like you don't carry responsibility for it. But without proportionate reasons, he acts in a way that brings about someone's death, even without intention to do so. So this idea, what this saying is that unintentional killing is not imputable. So I didn't intend to do this, right? But if without proportionate reason, you didn't intend to do it, but there was no reason why you couldn't do anything else, right? There's no proportionate reason. You acted in a way that brought about that death. I didn't intend you to do something, but you didn't stop it. You didn't by acting or not acting in a way that brought about the death. Oftentimes that's when someone dies. Someone or someone that you saw that you were there. The way you acted brought about someone else's death. You saw someone, doing a dangerous act or something like that, and you didn't do anything. Someone who was drunk and goes into the pool, and just let him be. He's drunk. He's in the pool. You didn't tell him. Yeah, but he drowns and dies. You had the possibility of doing something. So our care for life is significant. Right? Then we go to the ever famous abortion. These are the paragraphs on abortion. We believe life is to be respected and protected from the moment of conception. That is our faith. It has always been a teaching. We've never taught otherwise. Direct abortions, which means direct. So this is not principle of double effect. Direct abortion, like direct killing. Direct abortion willed as an end. My intention is to do this. I have no other reason than to do this. Right? It's considered a grave sin. So formal cooperation, willingness to participate in the act, that's what that means. Driving someone there, paying for it. All these things are all part of grave sin. So it's like, I just paid for it. Well, that doesn't matter. You carry the same responsibility. The church attaches the penalty of excommunication. Now, late sententia means automatically, by virtue of doing it, you are automatically excommunicated. That's automatically excommunicated. And why would that be? And it's not to restrict mercy, not because the church isn't merciful, but to make it clear the gravity of the innocence that is taken. Remember, we're talking about direct abortion. Everybody comes up with all kinds of life of the mother. That's not a direct. There are all kinds of. Once you start throwing things into this situation and creating a scenario, then it could possibly move out of direct, not necessarily, but where you intend to do this. So the right to life is constitutive element of every society and law. Everybody, once you come into existence, you have the right to life. And it is not a decision of parents or society or state to take any of that life away. All right, that's number 2273. It belongs to the human nature, and it is inherent in the person who's alive. I have a right to life, my life, as I'm living it. All right? So the embryo must be defended in its integrity, number 2274, cared for like an other human being. It can't be any clearer than that. Even in prenatal diagnosis, there cannot be an imposed death sentence, which I think is really pretty strong, because of difficulties or birth defects, which we know now happens all the time. Oh, your child's going to have Down syndrome. You should abort it now. And the church says that giving it a death sentence because it has some prenatal diagnosis, about the way their life is going to be. And the church, absolutely, that's 2274. Can't be any clearer, at least I consider, because it knows that. And then, 2275, it is okay for something in an embryo to do something on an embryo to improve its health or survival if there is medical necessity. It's immoral to have embryos exploited or disposed of as material. So all of these places where there are embryos frozen and then destroyed, total crime against the human being in our faith. Right, 2275. Okay, it is not okay to fool around with the chromosomes or genetic inheritance, okay? Because the church says it's not therapeutic. Anything that's not therapeutic, anything that's not intending to go toward health of the person, all right, is considered a sin, especially if you're going to fool around with chromosomes and genetic inheritance and do selecting of life, of embryos. And the church absolutely disagrees with that. And very clear. And it comes from thou shalt not kill. It comes from the commandment. All right? And that once life begins, life has the right to live. All right? Any thoughts on that? Yeah? Do we hear enough about it at church? I think it's pretty clear. I mean,
Because, like you said, there are even Catholics who...
Yes, okay, I see where you're going with this. Let me ask you this. If you don't believe this, do you think me telling you changed your mind? Right? I mean, if I go up there, so I've got maybe 10% of my church, let's say this morning, is pro-choice. Fine, I've been anathema, just assume. I'm going to preach on abortion. Do you think that what I'm going to say is going to change their mind?
But what if it would?
Yeah, but what if it would? There are a lot of things that would.
Yeah.
But
that's
what's
a big one.
very difficult for me to preach on abortion in particular is that I know there are some who are recovering from it. And I know that some who didn't want this or it was inflicted on them, or they have converted, or they have rehabilitated, and all I'm doing is making it more painful for them. And that's why it's like, look, you all know, abortion, if you think that the church teaches at all that it is okay for an abortion, you are totally clueless. You've got to be plain, I'll say it right now, be plain ignorant. Because it is so clear our church's teaching. I could say it 1,000 times. It's not going to change your heart, and it's not going to change the church teaching. I don't know anybody who would say, you mean the church teaches it's wrong? I'm like, really? No, this is what I hear. The church teaches it's wrong, but I don't think it is. That's where we are. I don't think it's true of another human being. And I think that's where a lot of people of another human being. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying. And you don't have to just pick this one. A lot of people think they're free to do what they want, even at the expense of another human being. That happens all the time. But no question there. Just know that we also don't believe in any of this in vitro fertilization, saving up all the embryos, so that you can have space at your families, whatever it is. That is not what we believe. Nor sperm banks, all that stuff is not something that we